With getting that #1 seed and getting a host?
I mean, obviously, it's about playing well. Now, I think that if you're fortunate enough to play deep into the playoffs, you obviously want to play at home as much as you can. But, you know, wherever you play these guys, you got a heck of a task ahead of you.
How big was that series, that last series with Jaylen Brown? I mean, obviously, Jaylen Brown last series. How big was that series for him? You mentioned Casey playing some big moments in the third quarter. You got that block on Gortat, that big fix in the lane. How big was this last series for him?
Well, you know, he had really played very consistently, both minutes and in performance. And then, you know, it was one of those deals where against the Bulls, we kind of found a rhythm without him. And that's a tough situation to be in, but to his credit, you know, he really stayed prepared. He put in extra work. He was ready to help us in the Bulls series, but knew that his time would come if we were fortunate to get out of there. And, you know, I thought from game 1 on, he was pretty darn good in the Washington series. You know, those are tough situations for anybody to perform well, but to have that kind of maturity at that age, to be ready, stay ready, and keep a good mindset is pretty impressive.
Do you like the aspect that you guys get to stay in rhythm, having 1 day off as opposed to them having a week and a half?
Yeah, I mean, I like it because that's what we have to do, you know, and that's what the schedule asks for. And, you know, we're looking forward to competing and getting ready. You know, hurt my sleep schedule a little bit last night, but otherwise, you know, everybody else should be good to go.
Coach, you talked about how Cleveland is a better team than what you've seen before. Are there specific things they're doing better now as opposed to earlier that jump out at you?
Well, I mean, they've had the same starting 5 now for 3 years. Those guys are continually going to get better just by playing together and being aware of each other and everything else. And then their bench is, I think, really, really potent. And when you think about, you know, Williams and Korver and Shumpert and Fry and those guys, like, they've all had huge moments on the biggest stage, and so it makes it really difficult. You know, and I think all of those shooters around LeBron, I mean, it's something else. It's something else. It's tough to prepare for.
This isn't foremost in your mind right now, but can you reflect for a second on where this franchise is in terms of getting ready for Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals at the same time that you're in the running for one of the top picks in the lottery?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, we've had some good fortune in a lot of ways. You know, I think from our standpoint, you know, our focus has just been, you know, let's be as good as we can be every day, and then let the chips fall where they may. And then, you know, we're just fortunate to have that draft pick. So, you know, no matter what happens tonight, you know, we're lucky to be one of the 4 teams playing, and we're lucky to, you know, have a lot of good things ahead.
You agreed to the job right after the trade was made with Brooklyn. Is the idea of how this franchise was set up for the future, did that play a lot in your decision?
No, I'm too dumb for that. I think it was more of the idea that it's the Boston Celtics, and that this ownership group and management team had shown themselves to be really committed to growing and to building and to not riding the emotional roller coaster of an 82-game season. But, you know, I just felt like we were really going to be supported in helping to build. And so, you know, I think one of the good things that we did early on was stop using the term rebuild and started using the term build, because I think it was a positive way of looking at it and saying, hey, there's a lot of guys that are young. They've got to put their signature on this, and that will benefit them sooner rather than later if we all stay the course and try to get better every day. And it's fun to see some of those young guys perform at such a high level yesterday.
One of the things Isaiah just spoke to us a little bit about was how, since that Cleveland series a couple years ago, how he's become more of a student of the game. Could you just talk about just his growth off the court in terms of understanding what he needs to do and things like that since then?
Well, I think anytime, and he was a starter in Sacramento, but came off the bench in Phoenix, came off the bench here, and he probably didn't see the attention that they gave him in that series prior to at that level of intensity. And so I think that, especially with all the blitzing and all the different times they're sending two people at you, make you have to try to figure it out. And, you know, I thought the Washington series was a great example of adjusting with him in that they were probably back on pick and rolls, a little bit less helpful early, completely adjusted that, and were sending 2 to 3 guys at him, which he handled it great. And as other guys continued to find their spots, cut better, and we got the ball out quicker, then his spots opened up again yesterday in Game 7. So it's kind of how a series works, but you have to constantly adjust, constantly be on the fly, and that's where LeBron is so good. You know, I think that you can't throw him one look. You just have to, because he'll eventually pick that look apart.
From preparation standpoint, Brad, how much does it help against the Cavs that against the Wizards? A lot of things you guys had to key in on in terms of transition and turnovers, just pretty much carry over into what the Cavs do.
I think you have to transition and defensive rebound all the time, right? So I think that's huge. In our first 4 games against Washington, including our first 2 games against Chicago, we averaged 16 turnovers. In all of our other games, we averaged 10. We played much better. Taking care of the ball is huge, especially with a team that runs and jumps and blitzes as much as the Cavs do. And then, because if we don't, you know, we'll get killed in transition. And then we've got to be great at finishing plays on the defensive glass. And where the Cavs really kill you is when they get a rebound and spray it out. And, you know, you got all those shooters standing out there. And those things don't change series to series. How they play is different. The actions they run are different. The way that they kind of space the floor is a little bit different. So, but, you know, at the end of the day, basketball is about those things that you mentioned and trying to do as well as you can in those areas.
Brad, you said last night that you thought the Cavs were a better team now, even in that last matchup. What are you seeing from them that makes them a better team in such a short amount of time?
You mean since the
last
early April, whenever it was, late April, sorry. Early April, I think. Yep. Yeah, right? I'm lost. I think just watching them play in that moment that night, you could see that they were, you know, because that was the time where everybody was talking about their defense and everything else. And, you know, you're watching it on film and you're kind of like, they're going to go to a different level. And they have. And I think it's, you know, again, it's a bunch of guys that have been there before. They have a ton of corporate knowledge built up. And, you know, they fly around and can cover for each other with their savvy and their understanding probably better than, you know, most teams, especially younger teams that haven't been through what they've been through. And you see that in all their blitzing. I mean, they can blitz you from any which way, and they're always finding the next threat well. And I think that's a, you know, it's a compliment to their coaching. It's a compliment to their players, their desire to take away the threats. And, you know, they've done a really good job of it.
All right,
Thanks.
Thank you.